Hey, what's up? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of SimplyPodLogical, a Simply Nailogical podcast.
Menchie is having the time of her life, just rolling around.
Audio listeners are missing out. So today, Christine, we're going to play a game. We want to have some fun.
I love games. Let's play.
This was Christine's idea. I don't know how I feel about it.
No, it was a commenter's idea. I stole it.
Okay,
It was
Christine
one
stole
of your
this idea.
Someone left a comment several podcasts ago that they wanted to hear us tell or account a TV show or a story and have the other person guess whether it was real or fake.
Okay, maybe let's say that again.
Okay, sorry.
I'm confused. We're each going to take turns.
Yeah.
Describing a television show to each other.
Yes.
Maybe we made it up. Maybe it's a real TV show, and the other person has to
guess if it's real or fake.
Based on our description of it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
This wasn't our original idea. A commenter left it. I just want to give.
Well, we've done
credit.
something similar. We've done like the movies thing because Christine doesn't watch many movies, so I can describe like very popular movies to her and like.
Yeah, but that was guessing what the movie was, and we had to assume it existed. This is like the show could be entirely made up by the other person, and you wouldn't know, or you'd have to guess if they made it up. So it is a bit different. It's not exactly the same.
Okay, so I have 5. You have 4,
four.
5. Okay. Mm-hmm. We might have overlap. We don't know what each other chose.
And the rules were, we thought it would be unfair if we're like, okay, you have to make up 2 and then 2 have to be real, because then by process of elimination, it would get easier for us to tell the other person.
There were rules?
Yes, there were.
What were the rules?
We said that we wouldn't put a limit on how many had to be real or how many had to be fake. Otherwise, it would be too easy for the person to use like deductive logic to guess by the second half of the podcast. Oh, well, these have to be real because your other 2 were fake, for example.
Yeah, they could all be real.
Yeah.
They could all be fake.
They could all be real. They could all be fake.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want me to go first?
Sure, because you have 5.
All right, first one. So it's a sitcom. It's about a guy, his ex-girlfriend, his neighbor, and his friend. They live in New York City. Just a bunch of friends.
Okay.
Friends? No, but this show is funny.
Okay. Stop.
So they just live normal lives.
Okay.
They go to work, they date, but they don't really do anything remarkable. The show's not really about anything. So like in one episode, they go out and get Chinese food, and they wait a long time to get a table.
Is this Seinfeld?
In another episode, a guy sees how long he can drive his car with the gas meter riding on empty. And in another episode, a character quits their job, immediately regrets it, and then he just goes back to work on Monday and pretends like he never quit at all.
What did his boss say?
He's like, "Didn't you quit?"
And he was like, "Nope." Little JK.
All right, you already got it.
It was Seinfeld? Okay.
Okay, we started with an easy one.
But I just guessed because it was like, it's the biggest show about nothing. You know, that's why I was like,
That's okay
yeah.
though. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Friends in New York. I was trying to misdirect you with the Friends thing.
Well, I thought Friends, and then I was like, you don't watch Friends.
I thought there was a small chance I could get you with this one, because I don't think you've watched much Seinfeld.
I mean, I've seen it, but I definitely didn't watch it every time it was on television. And it was like, Seinfeld's on. I was like, okay.
There was a period of time in like the early 2000s, I want to say, where like at any hour of the day you could flip around cable and like someone would be playing Seinfeld.
No, I've seen episodes of it. It's not like I never watched it.
Do you like Seinfeld, Christine?
I think some of its humor was pretty good. Yeah, I like some of the really dry, terrible humor. It's just like, it's just so dumb, but like in a good way. I like it.
Yeah, I recently mentioned on a stream that I thought Jerry Seinfeld was funny. And I noticed I assume younger people were like, yikes, that's like, he's a boomer.
Maybe there's been some bad jokes from 20 years ago. I'm sure that's possible too. That didn't occur to me.
I think the issue with, I don't know how problematic it is. I know he dated like someone very young at one point. That's like really creepy. But anyway, I think the issue with him is like his humor is totally stuck in the 90s. And I actually never really liked his stand-up. And I think it is even more, it has sort of aged not the best if you've seen anything he's done recently. But I will stand behind the fact that him and Larry David created the funniest sitcom of all time. So I have to say that person is funny. I can't say he's not funny.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And Curb Your Enthusiasm is also amazing, which is maybe evidence that Larry David was like the better source of like the funniest moments of Seinfeld, but
The
I don't know.
comedy. Yeah.
Okay, I don't think you're interested in this conversation at
No,
all, so you want to move on to yours?
I think they're funny, but I'm also like not that attached, to those shows. I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm indifferent.
Even the way you
if
said,
someone wants to argue over whether it was funny or not, I'm indifferent. I'm like, okay, whatever. Okay. Do you want to hear mine? It's
Sure.
very different. This is my first one. Okay. Women want to be beautiful, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay, it's not a question. This is the beginning of the show.
Okay.
Okay, but not all women can afford the plastic surgery required to become beautiful.
I know it.
So why not put a bunch of lucky women, very lucky women, selected as contestants together to compete for the prize of free plastic surgery?
Yeah. This was on Fox. Yeah.
Okay, let's
keep
finish
going,
it.
keep going.
Let me finish my pitch
Okay,
or
tell us.
retelling. 300,000 women sent in letters hoping to be selected to be one of the contestants. And of those who got a spot, each contestant was assigned a coach, a trainer, a surgeon, and a dentist. You gotta fix your teeth too.
I mean, that would be an okay prize.
Okay, if you got a dentist, if you got
If you
dental
took all
care.
the plastic surgery
I
out
don't
of
really
it.
think it was for like cavities
It was just
kind of
free
dentist. I think it was
dentistry.
like a cosmetic dentist. But anyways,
Okay.
they have 3 months to work on their makeover. Just 3 months to get all the plastic surgery and like heal and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the rules are you can't look in a mirror at all in
Over
those
the
3
course
months.
of 3 months?
Yeah, if you're caught looking in a mirror, you're disqualified.
What if I like walk by like a window or something? I just accidentally see my reflection. Disqualified?
Disqualified. Yeah, you can't look at a window.
Okay.
It's a good point, though. Okay, then at the end, their final transformation is revealed to everyone, including a panel of judges who vote on which woman became the most beautiful, which one had the best transformation. They'll have a before picture, before video, and then the after reveal. And now the prize was not just the free plastic surgery and cosmetic dentistry, but also a contract as a spokesperson, a $100,000 contract gig as a Nutrisystem diet company spokeslady.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think it was called Swan?
Yeah.
The Swan?
It's real, Ben.
Yeah, no.
Can you believe
I
this
remember
is
that.
a real show?
That's fucking wild. Even by today's insane standards.
Today's. This is insane for any period.
Yeah, but I mean, we think of like how absurd reality TV. Like, there's a reality TV show coming out soon about like siblings on dating shows
Siblings
together,
are dating?
or something like that. I don't know.
What, actually?
Well, no, they're not dating, but like, even I feel like we're so desensitized to how fucked up reality
Yeah,
TV show.
you're right.
This description, whether it was 15 years ago or today, I think
Mm-hmm.
would still garner the same reaction of people being like, "This is just awful."
So a bit of history. It did air. This is real. It's called The Swan in 2004 on Fox Television. I remember watching it in Canada too. Like I remember the
Yeah,
show. I
yeah,
actually
yeah.
saw it on television. There was 2 seasons and there was going to be a third, but it got canceled after ratings dropped. So 2 seasons were completed and published of this show, which I did not remember. I remember like seeing 1 season and thought like, oh, that must have been canceled like immediately. But no, they went through 2 entire seasons. And then eventually on the third, they were like, okay, no more.
Are we gonna get in trouble for criticizing this? Because I feel like there's like this totally different perspective now on people when it comes to getting cosmetic surgery. That is just like, it's your choice, your agency, your body.
I think there's and I think that's the conversation I wanted to have. I think there's a difference between you as an individual choosing to go get something and instead making it a competition where you're pitting women against each other and pointing out their flaws in front of the world and turning it into a game for the consumption of entertainment purposes. And so a lot of these women spoke out years later about their experience on the show, about how they felt lesser than, or producers said this wasn't enough, you're going to have to like agree to more procedures. This is like things women who were on the show have said and that they didn't feel that great about. And they felt mostly misled by producers because they weren't actually told about how the show was eventually going to be presented to people. They just thought it was an opportunity to like, have progress and self-growth, and that it wouldn't be presented in the way it did. I think it was a lot of the the editing and the marketing decisions that really sensationalized it, which that is what people predominantly had a problem with. And it became the point of conversation in a lot of like sociological discussions and books, and feminist scholars would write about it. I actually took a quote from one of them because I thought,
oh, you did your research.
yeah, I was trying to remind myself, like, what was the conversation about this show like? Because you're exactly right. Some people would say, well, what's wrong with that? And I think most people had an issue with it turning into a game. And also the idea that even though you're on this show, you're getting all this work done, you have a life coach too. Because they said on the show, it's not just about your physical transformation, it's about your mental. So therefore, you need a life coach. You're still being voted off throughout the show, unless you win. So like you're never, no one is enough except the winner. So it's not always the best. I see what you're saying, but it's still a gamification of it that people took issue with. And also people just...
And also just the framing of like, look at these ugly ducklings. We're going to turn them into beautiful.
That's exactly what it was based on. The ugly duckling becomes the swan. Right. So it was like posting these or sharing pictures of them from before where they look like very normal women. Like normal they look like normal women, and then it's like, that's not good enough. Let's transform. And now I'm not saying, like, obviously they consented to be on the show.
I guess I just don't even, I'm not sure I appreciate why the gamification is what makes it better or worse, rather than just this idea that a natural looking person can't just
have a regular makeover.
Yeah.
Because that's normal in a lot of reality television shows, is to have, like, there's makeover shows, there's hair makeovers. America's Next Top Model is famous for just giving the models makeovers. And it's not necessarily always like, let's spend 3 months in doing surgeries, where producers are telling you, we're going to have to do this and this because we need a better after picture. We need to make it look like you absolutely aren't the same person.
Yeah, but whether it's a producer on a reality TV show or 20 years of growing up in an environment where you're made to feel ugly because you're staring at pictures of Kylie Jenner on Instagram, I think it's bad for the same reasons. I don't really know what the game show aspect of it. It makes it more obviously bad. But, you know, life is just a big reality TV show, Cristine. We're just all putting ourselves on Instagram.
I see your point. That was not true in 2004. I think women watching this show a lot felt uncomfortable with that you were also pitting a bunch of women who felt insecure and, you know, wanted certain things done, and that they never felt good enough, because even when they take all these steps, which some consider drastic, they're getting voted off and told that their transformation wasn't good enough. And so using that for a game, and also ultimately entertainment and ratings and television network making money off of this. And I think, like, what's the most important here is to listen to the women that were the contestants. And there's a ton of news articles out there. Like, the show is so old, so you can go look up. They've all spoken, not all of them, but many have spoken up. They've done interviews. They've expressed that they felt misled, and some of them said they wouldn't have done it had they actually known how it would be edited and presented. So that's kind of their story. But there was one scholar, Susan Douglas, who wrote about it in one of her books, and I just pulled this quote as an example of some of the criticism. It made all too explicit the narrow physical standards to which women are expected to conform, the sad degree to which women internalize these standards, the lengths needed to get there, and the impossibility for us to meet the bar without taking a box cutter to our faces and bodies. And
but that quote, sorry, I don't mean to cut. That quote applies to the show, but also the show is just a cultural signifier of something. You could just say that quote about the sort of cultural influence or pressure on women to conform to a certain beauty standard.
Yes.
In general.
Yes, you could. Yeah. I think at the time in 2004, we didn't have social media the way we do now, and we didn't know as well as we do now the extent to which beautiful people, or whatever quote our societal definition of that is, get all those procedures, because it wasn't as well known, and there wasn't as many people that we knew doing it. I think that's very different today. I think in 2004, it was far more upsetting for you to learn that that's what society was telling you to do in order to attain beauty and feel like you could be on a game show, or feel like you could transform to become a beautiful swan, and made more people feel ugly. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen today. I just think, like, in 2004, for that to happen when we lived in a world where we didn't really fully realize how many people were doing this on the regular and how it hadn't yet transformed into this, like, I'm taking ownership because I want to change my body. I think in 2004, it was a very different wake-up moment for a lot of young girls, and that's ultimately why that show got canceled.
I don't know. I'm not a person... I can't relate to this the way
that's okay.
people can, right?
Yeah.
But to me, like, that just seems like the sort of conversation and sort of cultural justifications of it have changed. I'm not sure.
Do you think it could exist today? Is that what you're saying? If it could exist today and no one would have a problem with it, is that what you mean?
No. I think it's all gross and incredibly depressing. And I don't think the fact that more people today have an attitude of there being more sort of agency in the decision really takes away from the fact that it's still ultimately a bunch of people feeling like they're not beautiful without getting cosmetic procedures. I think that's, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't know if I totally, anyway, let's get off. Wasn't there a reality show called Botched that also was like, because there's been a few reality TV shows about like,
but that was about
fixing people who got bad
did not
procedures,
go well.
right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. And it's also because there was a long time where these procedures have gotten a lot better, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it is crazy to think there are a lot of people who got them when it was very much still more experimental. That's also depressing. Anyway, this is all incredibly depressing. Can I give you a stupid one?
Yes.
Okay. There's this guy. He can turn himself into any animal.
Menchie.
Okay? And he uses this ability to fight crime.
Spider-Man.
The only person... What animal does Spider-Man turn into?
Spiders? No. Okay. He's kind of a spider.
The only person who knows his secret is his sexy female police detective partner, Brooke McKenzie.
Is this funny or is this sexist?
And she helps the man solve crimes. So he could turn himself into any animal. But in every episode, he turned himself into either a hawk or a black panther. And then in a few other episodes, maybe he would turn into a horse or a bear.
Is this like...
One episode, he turned into a dolphin.
Is this a realistic picture or is it animated?
No, this is like real.
Real, okay.
Real. It's not an animated show.
Got it.
And the show only lasted 8 episodes. And the funny thing is when he would turn into an animal... he's this guy in like a suit, and he would like turn into a dolphin. And then when he would turn back into a man, he'd just be wearing all his clothes again, his suit.
Okay.
Is this a real show, Cristine?
It sounds so ridiculous that it could be real, but I don't know.
I'm not funny enough to come up with a show like that.
But I don't even understand the show. Is there like...
He fights crime.
Okay.
So like a woman who works at a racetrack, her horse is stolen. So he fucking turns into a horse and he overhears who stole the horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does he turn into an animal? Does he have
he
like
just
a special power?
I think there was some sort of insensitive origin story that involves like some African magic or something like that.
So this is real.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't have come up with it. This is a real show called Manimal.
Manimal?
It was in the 80s.
I've never heard of it.
Only lasted a few episodes.
How did you find this?
I was just looking up random TV shows.
Just like a real show on daytime television? Or
it was just like a random, like, in the really like cheesy 80s period where there were a lot of like procedural crime dramas of fucking MacGyver and shit like that. It was like really cheesy, like super cop, clever. I can figure out, tricks and I don't know. Things got very gimmicky.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you've watched those shows?
I just looked up some clips of it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It sounds very interesting. Who is the actor?
I don't know.
How did they do the CGI? I'm like, how did they make this show?
I think they used real. I think it was very cutting edge at the time.
Okay.
But like not
all
good
right.
at all.
Okay. All right. Menchie, what do you think?
She doesn't like it.
I become Menchie every day.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Here's my next one. Imagine
a time.
like millionaire matchmaker, what's her name? Patty Stranger? Patty Stranger?
I remember that
Okay.
show.
It's kind of like that. Okay, so imagine millionaire
You
matchmaker.
do all reality TV show.
Ben. So like, just in case anyone else doesn't know, that's where she's a matchmaker who would set up millionaires, often men, with ladies that she would pick based on her expertise of knowing who works for who. So imagine that, but for prison.
Excuse me?
A prison matchmaker who helps inmates find love with someone on the outside.
After they're released or while they're still in prison?
While they're in prison.
Okay.
So the host, who's a matchmaker.
Patty Stringer?
No, it's not Patty Sander. I'm just like, imagine that, but for prison. She started a side business where she matches inmates who are looking for a relationship with singles on the outside who are interested in prison relationships or are okay with prison relationships.
Man, you've probably had a bad experience on Bumble or Tinder if you're like... Forget those apps. I'm signing up for the prison dating.
Some of the screening rules are that inmates with violent crimes against women or children are screened out.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know.
That's good to know.
And the host herself is in a relationship with a prisoner and admits that she is just attracted to the idea of dating a prisoner. Like she just likes that.
What? Okay, could we deconstruct that a little bit?
Yes, that's the point of this. She's also been a pen pal for years, but then realized she could make a business out of being a prison matchmaker, which goes beyond pen pal. And so she'll set up inmates with people from the outside, and sometimes prisoners are released during the window of the show, but sometimes not. So sometimes it's just a relationship where like you don't see them.
Does the relationship last once they get out? Or was something very attractive about the relationship? Just you know where they are at all times.
So is this real or fake?
I've never heard of it. I'm going to guess it's real.
It is real.
It is real.
Yeah.
It aired on television?
It's real. It's called Prisoner of Love. The first season aired last year on Discovery Plus.
No shit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It makes sense. That Discovery is the same parent company of like all like the 90 Day Fiance and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. It kind of has that vibe. I didn't watch the whole season because like I don't pay for Discovery Plus, so I couldn't find it. But I watched like a bunch of trailers and at least part of an episode, just to see the vibe. It's very much reminiscent of 90 Day Fiance. Sure. That's kind of how the flow is. But then you have kind of the host who's just talking.
So it's more of a profile of the types of people who want to be in relationships with prisoners?
No, it's about specific couples. I forget how many, somewhere between 4 and 8 couples.
But they weren't in relationships before they got matched up through a dating service matching people with prisoners. Because I just want to be really careful. I think
they were single people.
Yeah. Because I just want to make sure we're not like making fun of the idea of like if you have a loved one in prison and maintaining that relationship is like.
To be clear, it's not that. That's another show.
It's this idea of sort of like fetishizing, like I want to be matched up with someone imprisoned for something.
That's a criticism of the show. But I wanted to have this discussion because I found it really interesting as someone, and you as well, who's like been in criminology for many years. My first thought when I heard of the show is like, this is the fetishization, exactly what you said, of dating someone who's in prison. And the idea of them being incarcerated is what makes you attracted to them. That's literally what the host said. And that's why I wrote that down, that she fully admitted to that. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole discourse on prison tourism and in criminology studies where it's basically like criticizing through a critical lens how people on the outside kind of fetishize what it's like to be inside prison, whether it's like you want to date someone or you want to go on tour of a prison just to like see where all the bad people live and how it is and how problematic that can actually be, because that doesn't help it doesn't help society in the sense of if we care about rehabilitation or, reintegration into society, these aren't actually helpful things to just fetishize the people who are incarcerated. So it can be very problematic. So I heard of this show and thought immediately of that. And I wanted to hear like what their rationale in 2021 for having a show like this, because I could totally see this existing like 20 years ago and like, people haven't really discussed how problematic it could be. But the host's rationale, which I found interesting and something to consider, was that she really felt that people who are in prison are lacking in social supports, which is
Totally
often
true.
true.
Yeah.
And this helps give them a potential connection so that they have a possible support to look forward to when it comes time for their release. Now, not everyone, I think, in the show had a release that was near. Some of them might be there for, much longer than is reasonable to wait for some people. But that's a personal decision. But I thought it was interesting to listen to why she thinks that it makes sense and why it's fair. But I still feel like as a source of entertainment, this show, there's a lot of problems still that I think a criminologist could write a whole essay about.
Yeah, but is this an example where people with like no vested interest, like us just as observers, think it's problematic and exploitative, but if you have like two consenting adults and someone incarcerated is getting something positive out of it, like who are we to say, I guess, this is a terrible thing? I could judge Discovery for
I'm talking about the fact
turning
that
it
this
into,
is a TV. This is a TV show. That's why it's like it goes along with prison tourism because it's a TV show.
Okay, I see. Yeah, when you first started describing it, I thought you were going to say it's like they just got out of jail or prison. And it was a show about like dating, being just out, and like maybe you're lacking the sort of social awareness or social, I don't want to say intelligence, but like I think it would be really interesting, a dating show of people who have just recently been incarcerated for a long time, right? Which
Like,
still could be problematic, but I thought that was a different angle.
it's like learning how to date in the outside world again.
Okay, I think I need to see this to judge. I see how it could be very exploitative.
I just hope that all the participants are paid fairly and compensated. That I don't know. Because I think that's another interesting question. If you're going to participate in a reality TV show and you're signing a waiver because, your face and your likeness is being used.
Do you think they have that?
I don't know. There's not that much information about the show, like at all. I guess because it's new or it's not well talked about.
I've never heard it. What was it called?
Prisoner of Love.
Ugh, I don't like the title.
I think like the marketing of these shows is sometimes what is often very problematic to me. I think that this show maybe is coming from a good place, like possibly the host, some of the things she said, like I was like, I see your point, and I do think some of this can be fair and coming from a good place. But if you watch the trailer, there's like quick snippets of them interviewing the people on the outside, like the outside version of the relationship, and they would like get on a phone call with someone and talk about, oh, could this person be violent and dangerous? And they include quotes like, she could go crazy on him or she shot him, just to get the viewer really enticed, like, oh my God, who are they dating? And I found that really distasteful. But that's what I'm saying. That's the show's decision to entice a viewer. So when you use it in this sensational way as entertainment, that's where it gets problematic. That's a really good point.
Me. And I think you could even say this. So most people will know 90 Day Fiancé. That's a much more. And I think the parallel here is like the idea of that show, you could argue, is, hey, look at the sort of legal process two people have to go through when you have someone in America and someone trying to come from overseas, and the sort of visa process and how they need to get married within a certain amount of time or else they'll be separated. Like there is sort of a core idea there that is interesting and that isn't necessarily salacious or just exploiting people. But then anyone who watches that show, unironically, or what, anyone watching that show, the entertainment value is a lot of just like pathetic men who get scammed into having a relationship with women who clearly just want a green card or something like that, right? And that's really 90% of the substance of the show. It's not that more core...
like the challenges of dating someone from another country and having them over. Yeah. Like, and I find whenever they show a clip of them in a lawyer's office discussing it, I want to hear more of that.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like,
about prenups,
what are the actual challenges? And,
So like, is 10% of the show that sort of respectful idea of like the real thing, but 90% of it is like, let's just laugh at this loser, But then 100% of the marketing of it in the trailers and clips is usually the sensational thing. Because that's just editing. And I know that that's true of like any show. Any show is going to pay. Like any YouTuber will use clickbait things, The reason I would never go on a reality TV show.
What's this? What's this, Ben?
Even if it sounded entirely non-controversial or just
Because
like,
you never know how they're going to produce
because
it.
you have no rights over editing your own stuff. There is a YouTuber who did a show with MTV. She is the star of the show. And I guess as the people making the show realized she was a shitty person who was late all the time, the show's storyline turned into how she was a shitty person who was late all the time and wasn't supportive of her friends and her manager had to treat her like a baby and blah, blah, blah. This is Tana Mojo, by the way. Anyone who has seen the show. And it's like, oh, wow, like the star of the show, I'm sure she got well compensated for it, I assume. But it's like even the star of the show, they used the editing, or maybe they're just showing you what really happened, and just made her look fucking terrible. So if they're going to do that to the star of their reality TV, what do you think they're going to do if you're just some girl number 18 on some dating show?
Yeah.
If they have a little snippet of audio of you saying something slutty, they're going to fucking clip that in and make it seem like you did something just so they can use it in a fucking trailer. And everyone for the rest of time will just think you were a girl who slept with someone on a reality TV show that you barely knew.
That's a really good point. And I think over the last 20 years, especially when I was reading up on the women who participated in the Swan, there's always been this kind of desire, in especially North American culture, to be on reality television. Probably more so earlier. Now it's like be a social media influencer. But you know what I mean? One way to become a social media influencer is to get on reality television.
That's the huge overlap now, right?
But it's like it's your starting point. It's your jumping off. And you're willing to sign whatever the producers give you as long as you can just get your spot. And we see that on shows like Love Island.
Yeah, which we've
and
been
like
watching.
other trash reality television.
I'm being a bit hypocritical because like I watch some of these shows.
Yeah.
I would say that one's, I don't know if that one's problematic the way I think a lot of reality TV show is. It's just like a bunch of young, sexy people making out, basically.
Hot new single entered the villa. But it was Menchie.
I think it's a good example of what you're saying of like people come on that show
Just
and they're
wanting to be
clearly
on
like,
TV.
yeah, maybe I can become a micro influencer out of this and sell.
And get a FabFitFun sponsor.
Yeah, I could sell yoga pants after this and make some money, basically.
Yeah, and a lot of them admit to doing that. But I think, like reading on the women who were on the Swan, a lot of them, in retrospect, said they just wanted to be on TV because that was an era where, like, if you did that, you could be catapulted into basically like a B-list celebrity. And it's kind of the same.
By being on the Swan, I don't.
Okay,
think
well, not
so.
the Swan, but just like the chance at being on a reality
On
TV
TV at
show,
all,
you don't know
right?
if it's going to blow up or be really big. And I'm sure producers are telling you like it's going to be huge. That's probably what they say. And so it's just that mentality that there are a lot of people out there, probably someone listening to this too, who might be just so eager to go on a reality TV show because they think it'll be their big break, and they're willing to sign whatever it says without fully understanding until it's too late that might potentially mean a producer or an editor can edit you however they want, and you won't be able to change it.
I don't think
not
you can
everyone has a
plead,
problem with that.
Yeah, I don't think you could plead ignorance of that at this point.
But not everyone has a problem with what I just said. Some people are like, I don't give a fuck as long as I get my
on
spot,
TV,
like,
yeah.
and that's fine. But it's just for people who maybe later will give a fuck. It's hard to really know that, and it's a huge decision to basically sign your rights away.
I think you often see that when there's like a bad guy on a reality TV show, someone who like so comically embraces a villain role. I think that
on Love is Blind.
9 times out of
Remember
10,
that?
I think that is a very strategic thing. Like, oh, I know I'm going to get a lot of airtime and people will remember who I am if I'm remembered as like the guy who said a bunch of misogynistic stuff on a dating show.
Do you think that
right?
was? I don't think that's strategic. I just think they're just being themselves.
I think it's like this sort of shameless attitude, though, of just like, yeah, I think part of it comes from like an ego place of just like, I know this will get me more airtime. I think it's partly that.
I don't think they're that smart.
You don't think it's that calculated?
No, I think they're
You
just
think the
actually an asshole and
producers
think
just
they're right.
find
And
terrible
producers
people?
find people
Yeah.
who are assholes who think they're right and are proud about it.
We should have just made this about reality TV discussion.
Okay, do you want to give me your next one?
I don't really want to get a Manimal Seinfeld. Oh wait, no, okay,
Okay.
okay, I've got one. I got one. So it's a reality TV show. I'm just gonna tell you that, okay? It's a dating show, just like The Bachelor.
Okay.
Bunch of women are competing to end up with this guy.
Every show.
Literally, yeah.
Literally every fucking show.
The women are told this guy is very rich, that he just inherited $50 million.
Okay.
But in reality, He's a
broke.
construction worker. He doesn't have money at all.
I know this one, but go on. I'll hear you describe it.
I mean, there's not much else to say. The show is just, it's really about these women competing to end up with this rich guy.
He's not actually rich.
When it's down to the final woman, they reveal that he isn't rich at all. And it's putting all the pressure on her to be like, were you only here because you knew he had money, or do you still want to be with him even though you now know he doesn't have money? And if she chose to stay with him at the end, I think they both won a cash prize.
They would give money. So, like, you would choose to stay.
So they chose to stay. They got the money, and then they broke up shortly after that. You know the show I'm talking about.
Millionaire.
Joe Millionaire.
Yeah.
There were 2 seasons of it.
I remember.
But even by the second season, I think it was kind of like, it was a 1 season. You can only get away with 1 season of that, right? Kind of like Joe Schmo.
I feel like it's kind of stupid, but it's not the worst, you know? Like, that's not the worst big twist. Like, actually, he's not a millionaire. I mean, like, I'm not mad at that twist, whereas there's other show twists that are definitely, like, not good.
What I find fucked up about it, though, is it put all this sort of expectation on, like, on the women, were you just a bunch of gold diggers, or were you here for love?
Yeah.
When really it's like, wait, I was on a dating show with someone who completely lied about who they were for our whole time together. And maybe that's the reason I don't want to stay with you.
But that's a lot of dating shows, like the fake Prince Harry one.
Oh,
and there's
I remember
so many other shows where there's a twist and the person that you think you're dating has a secret, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So like that's a common trope in dating
But
shows.
the trope is always like puts it on the prospective partner. Like, do you still
like,
accept this
are you
person
still
even though
good
they
enough?
had this secret?
Yeah.
When it's like, well, you kept this like super meaningful thing about your.
But
Like
that's the point of the show.
but
It's so the audience. I mean, I'm not saying like obviously don't do this in real life, but the point of the show, the reason why it's interesting to an audience and even gets attention at all is because you're saying like they don't know the truth and the audience gets to know the secret.
But what I'm saying is it put a lot of like almost blame on the woman as if like she was only interested in the money if she then says no, when really it's just like, I don't even know who the fuck you are. You've been telling me you're the heir to the fucking Candy Crush fortune or something.
Right. And so they never got a chance to actually learn about what this person does for a living, their education, history, and background that would have led to that. Because they probably had to tell a bunch of lies to keep up this story of being like, I have $50 billion.
I watched this like 15 years ago when it came out, so I don't remember exactly how that worked. But yeah, I don't like that it's sort of framed like the women would be gold diggers if they still didn't want to be with this guy who had been lying to them the whole time.
Right. And that was always the public conclusion. It wasn't because like he just lied to you so you don't even know what's real.
Also, this was a famous example of the show. It was accused or alleged, and I think confirmed, that they really used editing to make one of the girls look really
bad.
Really bad, yeah.
Yeah. That's always the case. There's always someone who's on a reality show that comes out after and is really upset with the editors or the producers for misleading them with the initial contract or what the show is going to be about, or in editing them and framing them in a negative way. It's always happens. Every single TV show. Warning. Okay. You want my next one?
Sure.
Okay. So there's 12 people from all around the world who are asked to participate in a reality television.
Amazing Race.
I don't know
you
why.
You did all reality TV shows?
Shush. Okay, they're put in a house with cameras and are told they're on a show about judging what celebrities have posted on social media.
This is fake.
I have barely said what we're doing.
Okay, go on.
Okay, they're told that together, the 12 of them will hear, deliberate, and rule on a variety of internet actions taken by celebrities on the internet. Things that celebrities have said, that they've done, that they've posted on the internet. Okay, so they're going to rule on them.
This is just Twitter. Just go to Twitter.
In real life, though.
Go to twitter.com.
In real life. Okay. The contestants are told they will be the court of public opinion. There's 12 of them. They're jurors. While in their show house, they're off the grid, so they can't see what's going on in social media. They have no phones. They have no access to the outside world. And so as incidents involving celebrities occur in real time, they will be presented to the 12 court of public opinion jurors in the house. But outside the house, like in the real world, social media is actively being monitored by a number of metrics to essentially measure what the court of total public opinion, that's all of us.
That's represented by what, Twitter? That's not real life. Turn off your phone.
by everyone on the internet
Close your phone.
is concluding on whatever incidents are coming up. So, there's special analysts who are using P-scores, Twitter trending hashtags.
This is your idea.
Follower numbers. Ben, let me finish. There's a panel of experts who are doing analytics to figure out like what is the actual public conclusion outside of this house that has been isolated, the 12 people. The contestants are told that if they get the ruling right, and by that I mean it's an agreement with the audience outside, they will collectively win $100,000. In attempt to remove bias of the contestants and their like or dislike of a known celebrity,
definitely worried about bias.
Like if they love Beyonce, we can't tell them it's Beyonce in the tweet. Like that would not be fair, right?
Oh.
So we omit the name of the celebrity and any disclosing information that would say who it's about. So you don't know who you're ruling on, okay?
Okay.
We got to remove the bias.
How much longer is this?
I need a little bit more time. Okay. The house has a built-in mock courtroom.
Oh, Jesus.
So they literally go sit in court to see the evidence presented by the host. There's lawyers, they are actors, but the participants don't know that. And all the contestants have rules, much like a real courtroom. Like you cannot deliberate until the case has concluded its presentation. But there's a twist.
Okay.
There's a twist.
I'm just waiting for you to be done talking.
What the contestants don't know is that the producers actually went through their own posts and comments across social media and are presenting that to them. And there's no statute of limitations.
Wouldn't they recognize their own posts?
Wait. And there's no statute of limitations, so posts could be from like 10 years ago. Now, the audience outside knows. They get clued in to which juror is responsible for which case presented. So we, the audience, can observe their behavior. Do they act different? Do they tell others that they did that too? Do they rule favorably out of bias? Or show absolutely no indication that they themselves could have ever done that? Now, at the end of the show, in case they haven't figured it out yet, it's revealed that these are, in fact, their statements. And then there's phase 2 of the show. The contestants are told...
There's no phase 2. That was phase 1.
I'm almost done. The contestants are told it was not their guesses that would win them the $100,000. It's the audience, the actual audience, all of us, who gets to rule on which juror deserves the $100,000. Presumably that
Based on...
Well, we observe their behaviors that whole time. So we're going to decide who was the better person, who wasn't lying, who was being the most ethical and fair, considering that they themselves may have taken certain actions, and we know which actions
the people are capable of growing and changing. Yeah.
All right. Is this real or fake?
This is clearly your show. You pitched it very passionately. P-scores. How statistically significant.
I watched too much trial, so I was like, yo, what about a show about a court and there's jurors? Okay.
I like it a lot.
Do you like the name, The Court of Public Opinion? I like it.
I think the name, we could workshop.
We could need some work.
We could work on the name a little bit, but people would watch it.
Do you like the twist?
I think people would be upset, though. And I think the people...
Every reality show, people are upset.
Who really champion going after people for having said offensive things would really take issue with a show like that.
Obviously, this show is not without problems. I know that. I'm not saying like this should be the next show for sure. I just think I thought it was interesting to kind of flip it on its head, because we're, constantly wanting to criticize celebrities, whatever they say. So I was like, what if you just don't tell the people evaluating that it's actually their statements?
I like that the final twist was sort of like this mirror of, if you dig into anyone, they've probably said something stupid at some point.
And will they admit it, or will they act differently? Will they be biased when they're ruling against someone else and they don't want to let the other jurors know they did that? Like, I'm interested in it. I would never actually do this. Let me just disclaimer, I would not fund a show to do this because I wouldn't want to embarrass anyone in this way. I was just trying to like write a storyline that sounded so detailed that you could think it was possibly real, but he found out.
I don't think you need to make a show like this, because you can literally watch this play out on social
Twitter.
media all the time. And maybe a lot of it comes from a good place, but Yeah, I think it generally comes from the good place. This sort of tendency you see for people wanting to be like, Beyonce used a word in a song that I don't like. And like, I'm not saying there isn't some validity or merit to that, but it really seems like a lot of people just really get off on it in a way that kind of creeps me out too.
Well, that's why this show, I think, would have good ratings. I think it could do really well because people are very interested in other people getting exposed for whatever they've said. So that's why I think as a show, as a spectacle, it could do really well. Just saying. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying as a show, that's what people are looking for. That's why we have so many fucked up shows.
Okay. So do you have another reality TV?
Did you have one more, though?
I have more, but like...
Okay. I have one more after this. It's very short, though.
I've got one. It's a show about a high school teacher. He has a wife and a child. He's never been successful in life. He feels like he's never really lived a real life at all. He finds out he's terminally ill. And he's like, fuck, I don't have a lot of money. I know my wife and child are going to be left in a desperate place. So he's going to use his education as a high school chemistry teacher.
I know this.
To sell drugs. And he's really good at it. And he feels alive. And he turns into this different person. And he says he's doing it for his wife and kids. But really, he's doing it for himself. You know the show.
Breaking Bad.
Great show.
Really good show. We watched it much later after it came out.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it just because I'm watching Better Call Saul now, which is almost done, which is the prequel to Breaking Bad, even though they're making it like 20 years later. It's kind of funny that like they're making the prequel and all the actors look 20 years older.
Yeah.
I know some people are hung up on this. I don't really care. It's just kind of funny. But anyway, one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, that was a good show.
All right.
Okay, I have one more. It's really short.
Like Cristine has like fleshed out entire concepts and twists and just like Breaking Bad.
They're not good. Okay. There's a woman who does not know who her biological father is. She has not seen him since she was born. But producers know.
Okay, it's real.
Yeah, it's real. Okay. And they put her known father in a group of 24 other men and let her try and figure out which one is her biological father. If she guessed right, she'll win $100,000, which seems to be like the standard prize in reality TV shows. Just $100,000, that's it. Okay. If she guessed wrong, the not real father would, the not biological father would win $100,000. Like the guy she guesses incorrectly would actually get the money.
He'd get somebody.
Yeah.
Some actor.
But don't worry, she would still be told who her biological father is.
I'm not worried.
This is real. It aired in 2005 on Fox. It's called Who's Your Daddy?
Oh, God.
The first 6 episodes...
The name is worse than the concept.
Yeah. I saw a part of it. It's so, like, cringy, too. Like, the way it was shot. Obviously, there's huge problems, but I just wanted to share it because it's so ridiculous that, like, you would think it's not real. But no, this happened. The first 6 episodes aired, but there were low ratings and controversy that prompted the rest of the season to be shelved. Can you imagine?
Why didn't you tell me the concept of this episode was reality TV shows?
I don't know. It didn't have to be. It wasn't required.
Okay.
We could have done reality or regular TV shows, but I just decided to do all reality
50 minutes in, I just realized what's going on here. Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it's obviously fucked up, but it's crazy to think that it actually aired. Like, how did the show even air? Like, I can understand some people just thinking up the most ridiculous concepts, but actually getting funding and a network to agree to it and understanding that that's the concept.
So sorry, were the episodes then like she would hang out with these different
to try and figure it out.
And try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And maybe like get her hopes up that like, hey, I feel a real connection with this person. This might be my dad. And it's like, not your dad.
Yep. You are not the father vibes.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. And this was like a real person. Like, who
was it though? I always wonder with some of these shows, like, it's totally possible some of these were just all actors, right? I think you'd think that would come out eventually.
Apparently, I read one article about it that came out shortly after it was canceled. And at that time, shortly after it was canceled, she was standing behind the show.
Okay.
I don't know what has happened since, but she was an actress. That doesn't mean that this wasn't true. I do think it was, in fact, true. that she was looking for her biological father. I didn't see anything that like that wasn't true at all. It was all a lie. But yeah, that show happened, and obviously like adoption rights organizations had huge issues with it. It's incredibly problematic, but yeah, it actually aired, and you can still find those episodes somewhere on the internet.
I won't be seeking them out.
You won't be seeking them out, but yeah.
Oh, those are so depressing. I like yours the best, I think.
You liked mine the best?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucked up too, but it's not as fucked up as the other ones I described that were actually real.
It's more modern, unlike Jerry Seinfeld's comedy.
Yes. Yeah, I was trying to modernize reality television.
Let's not.
Let's not. We're not. Okay, comment down below. Are we hired or fired at script writing?
I didn't even come up with one.
Wait, what was yours?
They were all real.
Ben, you didn't even make up one?
Well, I had one made up about a cat who solves crimes, but we've been talking long enough.
No, tell me. That's not fair. I put so much work into my shitty script.
I was just gonna mostly improvise. I just said there's an uptight police detective named Turner. He's investigating a murder, but the only witness to the crime was a cat. So the show is about this detective. He has to adopt the cat, and he's not a cat person, so he's living with the cat. It's like humorous situation. He's like, "Oh, you cat, you're knocking over my stuff."
Like in Stray.
But the cat is the witness to the crime, and he becomes like his police partner, him and this cat. So it's like, instead of working along with like a canine unit, he's working with a feline unit.
A feline unit.
And the cat helps him apprehend the murderer. It was a mini-series.
That's cute. I actually like that. Why didn't you tell me that before?
I just told you that.
I would have said, I love this show. Where can I find it? We needed that, Ben. Thank you for sharing. That's actually a sweet show. You have so much sweeter ideas than I do.
Okay, let's never do this concept again.
Ben.
All right, thank you everyone for tuning in.
Hope you have a wonderful, fantastic, happy Taco Tuesday.
What was that?
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see y'all later. Bye.